There was something quiet about the way Bari's Arctic looked at the world. Not distant, not cold, but observant. He noticed the little pauses in conversations, the subtle shifts in tone, the things people didn't say out loud. It made him different, and sometimes it made him feel alone in rooms full of people. On the other side stood Elçin Sangu, whose presence carried warmth like sunlight through a window. She laughed easily, spoke with clarity, and had a way of making others feel seen without even trying. Where Bari's was quiet depth, Elçin was expressive light. Their paths crossed not with fireworks, but with something far more meaningful: understanding. It began on a regular day, in a setting that felt ordinary to everyone else. But for them, something subtle shifted. Their first conversation was simple. No grand introductions, no dramatic moment. Just a shared space, a few exchanged words, and an unexpected comfort that neither of them could explain. Bari's noticed it first. She listened, not just politely but fully. When he spoke, she didn't rush to reply. She didn't interrupt. She simply listened, as if his thoughts mattered. And to someone like Bari's, who had grown used to being overlooked in conversations, that meant more than anything. Elçin noticed something too. He understood silence. There were moments when she didn't feel like filling the air with words. Moments when she just wanted to exist without pressure. And Bari's never forced conversation. He never made silence awkward. He let it breathe, and in that quiet, she felt safe. Days passed, and their conversations grew longer. They talked about work, of course, about scripts, scenes, and characters. But slowly, the conversation shifted. They spoke about life, about the choices that shape people, about the moments that change everything, about the quiet fears they rarely shared with others. One evening, after a long day, they found themselves sitting across from each other, neither in a rush to leave. Do you ever feel like people expect you to be someone you're not? Elçin asked softly. Bari's thought for a moment before answering. All the time, but I think the real question is, do we let them decide who we become? She smiled slightly, not because it was a perfect answer, but because it was honest. That was the thing about him. He didn't try to impress. He didn't search for the perfect words. He simply spoke the truth as he saw it. And she respected that. As the days turned into weeks, their connection deepened, but not in a rushed or overwhelming way. It grew naturally, like something that was meant to take its time. They didn't need constant communication to stay connected. There were days when they barely spoke, yet nothing felt distant. When they met again, it was as if no time had passed. That kind of understanding is rare. One afternoon, during a break, Elçin found herself watching Bari's from a distance. He was quiet, focused on something, completely unaware of the world around him. There was a calmness to him that she admired. Not the kind that comes from having no worries, but the kind that comes from learning how to carry them. She walked over and sat beside him. "You think too much," she said, half teasing. He glanced at her, a small smile forming. "And you don't think enough." She laughed. "That's not true." "It's not a bad thing," he added. "You feel more than you think. That's why people are drawn to you." For a moment, she didn't reply, because he was right. And that was the beginning of something neither of them had planned. Not a sudden love story, not a dramatic turn of events. Just two people, slowly understanding each other in a way that felt effortless. But understanding comes with its own challenges. Because the more you understand someone, the more you see their fears, their doubts, their hidden struggles. And sooner or later, those things begin to matter. One evening, the mood was different. There was a quiet tension, barely noticeable, but present. Elçin had been distant that day. Not in a way that pushed people away, but in a way that suggested something was on her mind. Bari's noticed. He always did. "You've been quiet," he said gently. She hesitated. "I'm just tired," she replied. But it wasn't the truth. And he knew it. Still, he didn't push. Because understanding also means knowing when to wait. Minutes passed in silence. Then finally she spoke. "Do you ever worry that things change, even when you don't want them to?" Bari's leaned back slightly, considering her question. "They always change," he said. "That's the one thing we can't control." "And that doesn't scare you?" He looked at her, his expression calm but thoughtful. It does. But I think what matters is not trying to stop the change, but choosing how we face it. She looked down, processing his words. Because deep down, she wasn't afraid of change itself. She was afraid of losing something that felt right. And for the first time, that fear had a name. Their connection. That night, as they parted ways, there was an unspoken understanding between them. Something had shifted. Not broken. Not complicated. Just deeper. And neither of them could ignore it anymore.